Hi, everybody. Welcome to the At Mom podcast. I'm Lauren Rose, and today we're talking to Derek T. Freeman, author of the new book, Building Unstoppable Self-Confidence for Teens. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks for having me, Lauren.
Sure. So why don't you tell us just a bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into your book.
Well, my name is Derek, and I am a father. I have three kids. They are 10, 12. My girls are 10 and 12. My son will actually be 14 in 2 weeks, which is crazy. Yeah, I'm a husband. I'm a writer, a fairly new writer. I wrote my first book last year. So this book just came out November 27th of 22.
Oh, good.
And I'm a cat lover.
Yep, I'm actually working on a book for people with chronic pain, so maybe
Nice.
I'll reach out to you for some tips.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to write a book, and why did you decide to focus your book on teens as opposed to any other stage of life?
I can tell you the story. I'll try to keep it pretty brief because it sounds really cliche, but I feel like this kind of niche chose me. So basically, quick story of my life. I grew up as soon as I got out of high school, I was in a band with my brother and my cousin. We actually started the band when we were like 14 years old. And then as soon as we got out of high school, we ended up touring the country. We put out albums, and this is what we were going to do for the rest of our lives. We were pretty successful. And jumped to when I was about 26 or 27, my son was born, and I had to start looking for something a little more stable. So that's when that kind of changed, and I got into the restaurant business. I met a restaurant owner who took me on under his wing and just taught me so much. And I ended up eventually becoming his manager and working there I'm still involved, but it's been about 13 or 14 years. So again, to keep it quick, because I kind of go into some of this in the book too, of my personal story. Basically, what happened is when COVID hit, it hit restaurants really, really hard. And the restaurant that I was working at just wasn't able to recover. It basically chopped my salary in half once I did start working again, once we were allowed to open again. And pretty quickly I was like, all right, well, I got to find something to do now. So it was pretty scary. And I just remember it was early last year, and just going to bed and waking up every morning, just being like, asking for a sign or asking for something, some sort of inspiration. And eventually what started coming to me is I would wake up in the mornings and I would just start writing. And I kept this notebook by the side of my bed, and I would just write and write and write and write. And I was like, I think I'm supposed to write a book. And the kind of stuff I was writing was more about like, I'm big into like higher purpose, higher power, spirituality and stuff. So it was a lot of that kind of stuff mixed with, just like a little bit of self-help and just like ways to think and to teach yourself how to think and just, create a better life for yourself, all that kind of stuff. And I was just filling up pages and pages and pages. Well, eventually I realized that that niche is so saturated by like high profile names and authors. And it was just so daunting. And I don't know, I just remember thinking I'm not as much of an expert as these people are. Like, there's no way this is going to take hold. I'm not going to be able to like make any money off of this. And then eventually I think I just started to realize that, like, how can I get my message across? And maybe the key is giving it to younger people, because I feel like adults are for the most part, very like stuck in their ways, and adults think their opinions are the truth, and that's that. And it's a lot harder to sometimes talk to adults and get them to have an open mind. So my kids being, right up to approaching their teens as well, they kind of helped me, even direct me, and speaking with them and speaking with their experiences in school and stuff. And I realized that I was able to communicate with them, and they were getting it, a lot of this stuff. And I was just like, maybe I need to gear it towards a younger audience. And that's just kind of took off for me. Like it just worked well. And then the book came really quickly after that, within a couple months or so.
That's amazing. Your book is Building Unstoppable Self-Confidence for Teens. So why did you say self-confidence? Is there a difference between self-confidence and self-esteem?
Yeah. So I self-esteem is sort of like the foundation that you build self-confidence on. So your esteem is the way that you feel about yourself, and it could be good or it could be bad. Self-confidence is kind of the belief you have in your abilities or your tasks, or like the trust you have in yourself. So it's a step further than self-esteem.
Okay, that makes sense. In your book, you say the first step to self-confidence is finding yourself. Why is that? And what are some of the ways that teens can find themselves?
Yeah, I did so much research on this too, and then not just research as in other people's books and the internet and stuff, but research into my own kids' lives and just really acknowledging my youth, which was rough at first. When I was 12, 13, 14, I switched school system. My parents switched school systems on us, and it was really bad for me for a few years, which was also I talk about in the book. I kind of weave that story in and out, but it took me too long to find myself. And I know that for young people, it's so much easier just for them to blend in to what's around them in that age, because it's just you're putting less on the line. It's less risky for you to just fit in. It's easier. But the problem with that is that you're limiting yourself. Kids aren't going to find themselves that way. They're going to always try to be like the next person around them, or the popular kid, or it's like creating an avatar for yourself and living through it. Whereas that's just like a tiny fraction of what you really are. So, and I don't want to give away too much of the book, but
Right.
as far as finding yourself, yeah, I think that young people need to be able to learn how to start to quiet the outside world, you know, at times. I'm not saying all the time you have to become like this spiritual guru when you're a teenager, but just learn how to like quiet the noise out, how to go inside, how to self-reflect a little bit, how to practice that, really, because it is a practice. And when you start doing that, you allow your inner voice to speak a little more, you know what I mean, and say you gain a higher perspective on things. That's got to be the foundation, right?
Absolutely. I was really good at that growing up. I didn't have a whole lot of friends, so I had plenty of time to self-reflect. So,
Yeah,
and
see,
I enjoyed it. I
that's the
enjoyed it
positive
too,
that comes
though.
out of that.
There you go. Talking about wanting to fit in, fitting in means you're going to be labeled, right? So, what are one of the problems of being labeled the jock or the smart kid or whatever it is?
Yeah, this is kind of like a B part to the last question. They're similar. And in the book, I kind of call it like those "Hello, my name is" stickers. I
Hmm.
kind of I kind of view it like that, and it could be a cliche, like you said, like popular, loner, emo, nerd, whatever it may be, right? But and I've really discovered through writing this book that even like the more natural sounding labels, like artist or singer or dancer or like guitar player or like whatever, even those things, when you identify as those things, it's dangerous because you're blocking off everything else that you are, and all of a sudden you're seeing your world through this little small fraction of what you think you are, and you're always going to be so much infinitely more than that. And I think that young people need to explore the full version of themselves rather than that little part that fits in here, or I'm good at this, so this is what I am. It can be a part of what you are, absolutely.
Hmm.
And I fully support following your passions too. That's part of this whole thing. But as far as strictly identifying as those things, that could be dangerous.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that I identified as the smart kid growing up, mainly because that's the only reason that I thought my dad loved me, because that's the only thing he ever said about me was how smart I was. He'd introduce me to kids. Oh, this is my daughter. She's like really smart, or whatever it was. And so it took me a while to realize there were other layers to me, like I'm kind and I'm compassionate and I've got these other gifts besides just being able to make good grades.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I wasn't even thinking so much as what someone else might be impressing upon you, but
Mhm.
that's so valid. I was even just thinking about what you impress upon yourself, but yeah, it can come from anywhere.
Right.
It's the awareness of, okay, I'm more than this, you know.
Right. And we all are, like you say. So in your book, you quote Oscar Wilde, where he says, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken," which I love. I also love Dr. Seuss's quote, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" How can teens use these pieces of advice in their own lives?
Yeah, this is another thing that just took me too long to figure out in my own life, and I'm trying to impress upon my kids, which actually they're my kids are very unique and individual, which is awesome, and I think that's just so key is the power of individuality. And when you truly, I don't think you can really understand it until you like it hits you in your life when you're like, okay, I got to stop trying to be like everybody else, and when I do me, like amazing things happen. Like that's all you have to do is be yourself. Like we all have that special power. Like not one of us doesn't have that power.
Mm.
And I mean, all you have to do is look at like success stories and like all the countless people and leaders and, you know, stars, and these people are uniquely themselves, and they ultimately they followed that, and that's what made them, that's what makes other people love them, you know. it's
Right.
it's not it's not called follow the follower, it's called follow the leader, right? People love unique people, and we are all unique, but you know, when we're young, for a lot of the reasons I previously mentioned, like it's hard for us to realize that.
Yeah, I know when, like somebody comes out and they sound too much like a certain singer or they're too much like a certain celebrity, they're called the, Beyonce wannabe or the, whatever it is, wannabe because they're maybe not trying to be their actual selves, and that's what they need to focus on is finding their uniqueness. Even if they're similar to something else, that's fine. That's great. But there's something special about each one of us. I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, even this just kind of came to me, but even think about like a show like American Idol, right? Like
Hmm.
think about all like the, or like America's Got Talent or whatever. Like you find these people that are just like quirky and like they're just doing something sort of odd, but they're so good at it, right? And those are the people that everybody just goes nuts for. It's just like
Hmm.
and I'm not saying to do it so that everybody likes you either. It's more you want to do it for yourself. But the point is there that we all have to express our unique selves. And that's such a huge part of the self-confidence thing too.
Yeah. How important are our thoughts in determining our reality? I know you talk about this in your book.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter on, it's probably my favorite chapter of the book.
Mm.
I think thoughts are so important. Um, I mean, ultimately, I think that our feelings are most important and our intentions. Those are like those are the things in our life that allow us to create change and power, and you know, but thoughts are like the key to that. So that's why as a young person, even adults, you know, when you start monitoring your thoughts, and your thoughts are going to affect your feelings, and it all goes from there. You're going to start vibrating
Right.
different wavelengths, you're going to attract different things into your life, whatever you want to call that, you know. But thoughts are like the root of that.
What are maybe what's an example of a limiting belief that could hold us back?
Yeah, limiting beliefs can be anything, and they're tough, and I think a lot of adults even, you know, don't even realize all the negative self-talk that they do until you actually start practicing being aware of your thoughts. But and this is a part of the reason it was important for me to kind of get this message out to younger people, so you can not, you know, be so hardened as an adult, and it becomes harder to change. But yeah, it could be anything, like from I'm not smart enough as a kid, you know. You might not even know that you're thinking or feeling that way all the time, and like you said, it could be impressed on you by somebody else too. uh so and so doesn't like me, I'm annoying, it doesn't matter what I do, I can't change anything. These are all limiting beliefs. It could
Mhm.
be something physical, like I'm simply like I'm unattractive, I'm overweight. It can be anything. These are, you know, it it's up to us to set those beliefs, not the world. So when we start seeing that we can choose and we do have the power to choose our own, then we see things on the outside world will start to change and follow that.
So there is something we can do about limiting beliefs, right? They don't have to hold us back.
No, absolutely not. I mean, the first key is always awareness. If you don't know you're doing something, you can't change it. So,
Right.
I mean, awareness is like my favorite word, I swear, and I use it with my kids all the time. It's just like, don't judge yourself. And this could be anything, just be aware of it. When you're aware of something, you detach yourself from it. You're making, let's use a limiting belief for a thought, for an example, right? Well, when you're not aware of it and it's running through your head, a feeling or an emotion or a thought, you're identifying with it. So you don't even know it, but you're basically saying this is me. But as soon as you become aware of it, you instantly separate yourself from it. So that power alone of just becoming aware of something is like the start of change right there.
Absolutely. And I love your conclusion in your book. I don't want you, like you say, I don't want you to give away all of your book, but you encourage readers to be the light. And it's a beautiful metaphor. We talk about that a lot at my church, being the light. But what do you mean when it comes to teenagers being the light?
Yeah, I like that conclusion too of the book, and it's short and it kind of came to me all at once, and I think I wrote it in like 4 minutes, and I didn't really edit it all. I look back, I was like, yeah, I like this, because that's the kind of the message I wanted to end with, is that you can't battle anything and win. You can't. So you can't fight the darkness to beat the darkness. Like, all you can do is be the light. And it's like when you go into a room and it's dark, like what do you do? This is might be a stupid example, but it's basic. But you don't curse at the darkness or start kicking it, or like get angry. You turn the light on and the darkness disappears. So at a reality level, like, nature doesn't really know good from bad so much. All it knows is that we're giving something our attention, and that is what it's going to expand. Like, our attention is so powerful. And I know I'll probably butcher this quote, but there's a Mother Teresa quote that's really good too. You might know it better than I would, but something, she wouldn't attend an anti-war rally, but if there's a peace rally, then she'll be there. Right. So that's kind of like the same analogy. It's like, I'm not going to fight war. I'm just going to focus on peace and let the war, cut it off from the energy. So that's kind of what I meant by being the light, is don't stress so much about what things you can't change, and don't try to fight things that you don't like. Rather, invest yourself and your attention and your love and your time into the things that you do, and those things will fall away.
Oh, that's great. So your book is written for teenagers, but parents can also read it and give your advice to their teens and encourage their teens to read it as well. Where can we find your book and more information?
Yeah, so many. I mean, the biggest part of my audience is moms, actually, and most of them, or all of them, read it first, and then many of them say that they'll like read it with their kids after that, or like pass it along to their kids, which is really cool. So I hope it can help everybody. The book's on Amazon. If you just search Building Unstoppable Self-Confidence Routines, it'll pop right up. Also, for social media, it's super easy. It's Derek T. Freeman, author. So whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, just Derek T. Freeman, author.
Awesome. I'm writing that right now. Yeah, I'll go follow you.
Thanks.
Yeah. You can find me at @herstamom.com and at @herstamom on Instagram and Facebook. You can also email me at @herstamom@gmail.com. Hope everybody has a great day, and go out and check out his book.